everybody. Welcome back to Raw Relationships Are Work. I'm Tara, and today's episode hits close to home because it is home. It's about what happens when you realize people you care about just don't see you the way you see yourself. Because lately, I've had my feelings hurt a bit. Not because anybody ghosted me or forgot an important event in my life, but because of something that feels a little bit deeper. It's the sting of being misjudged or seemingly misjudged when you're told things like you're too much, you're competitive, you're always trying to be perfect, and you're left blinking like, wait, who are you talking about? You talking about me? And you know what else stings? When people call you goody two shoes. Ever been called that? Hmm, yeah. Like doing the right thing somehow makes you fake or self righteous, right? And so today we're going to go there. Misunderstood, misread, and honestly hurt. I'm actually going to read my own Dear Tara letter. And it says, Dear Tara, lately I've had my feelings hurt a lot. It's one thing to be critiqued for something I did, but it's another thing entirely to be labeled for who people think I am. I was told that I'm impatient, competitive, and that I have self-esteem issues because, quote, always have to be perfect, unquote. And when I asked for an example, they said, you always had to be valedictorian. Yeah, I was valedictorian in high school, but I haven't tried to be the best everywhere I've gone. Honestly, that is not how I see me. And the thing is, yes, I do try hard. Yes, I do care about excellence, but I'm not crying in a corner when somebody else wins or does something better than I do. If anything, I ask myself what I can learn from that and how I can improve. I think this narrative about me isn't fair. And it feels like it's rooted in, I don't know, misunderstanding, I don't know what. And I'm left wondering, do people actually see me or do they just see what makes them uncomfortable? I'm just going to say this letter is raw and it's real because being misunderstood isn't just annoying, it's painful. You know, not just hurt by the words, but by the disconnection. It's like if you really knew me, you wouldn't think that. And what's tricky about it is that you can't control how people perceive you. But what you can do is get really clear on who you are. Because sometimes the accusations say more about their insecurities than your reality. Here's the thing, right? I don't need to be the best. There's a difference between trying to do your best versus trying to be the best. If you have an inkling of what I'm talking about, if you've experienced this, right? You don't have a need to be the best. However, I just don't know how to show up and not give my best. And I don't think that should be something that I have to apologize for. And then also, sometimes there are the comments about being a goody two shoes or whatever. Like, since when did trying to live with integrity become something to mock, right? I'm not perfect. I'm not pretending to be perfect. I'm not trying to be perfect. However, I do try to be thoughtful. I do try to be responsible. I do try to be kind. So, why does it sometimes feel like people cheer against me? Why does it seem like some people are waiting for me to fail just so that, I don't know what, they can feel better about themselves? I don't know. It's sometimes said in a joking way, or sometimes it just happens to, I don't know, come out. But sometimes those kinds of comments or the sentiment behind those comments can be wearing. It can feel like no matter what I do, I'm too something, right? Too driven, too sensitive. I get that a lot. Too sensitive, too serious, trying to be too good, just too much. And honestly, it makes me want to disengage. It makes me want to shrink back. It makes me want to stop participating in things that I actually enjoy just so people won't resent me or turn me into their own personal villain. But you know what? That's not fair either. It's not fair for me to disengage like that because I don't think that those things were said or are said to hurt my feelings or to make me feel like that. I don't know. I don't know. But what I do know is that I would never root against someone I love. I wouldn't sit in a room hoping silently or whatever, or actively cheering against them, but I wouldn't sit there hoping that they lose. So why is it okay for other people to do that to me? It makes relationships feel exhausting. It makes being me feel exhausting because I feel like I am constantly having to watch what I say, how I act, what I do, so that it's not off putting to others. I have to edit myself. I have to edit myself, and that's not fair. It's not fair to me. So, this is where I name the real issue, right? Relationships, even healthy ones, they take work. Not just the work of, as we've talked about in other episodes, not just the work of texting back or showing up, but it takes the real work of seeing each other clearly. It takes curiosity. It takes asking questions instead of making assumptions and feeling that you're right in the assumptions that you make, right enough to go ahead and label, go ahead and attach that kind of a label on someone. Because here's what happens when people project, and this is what I sometimes feel. I feel that when people project their own insecurities onto you or define you by one chapter or one story, it will break trust. And over time, that will eat away at your willingness, my willingness to be open and to be seen. And eventually, you start to wonder if maybe the safest move, the easiest move is to not just, is to just stop showing up, to disengage. But that is not the answer because who you are, your effort, your heart, your integrity, that's not the problem. It's the projections, the misunderstandings, the way people react to their own stuff when they see you doing your thing. That's the real problem, right? It's not about saying, like, oh, look how amazing I am. It's how painful it is when people twist your good into something bad. And I'm just trying to be myself, right? You're just trying to be yourself. So, what do we do with this? If you're the one who has been affected by that or experienced this kind of a dynamic in one of your relationships, more than one of your relationships, what can I say? I can tell you what I have decided for myself, and that is we don't disappear. We don't apologize for growing, and we don't stop being thoughtful, kind, or excellent just to make other people more comfortable. Instead, because maybe there is some truth in what they said. I don't know. I don't think so. But again, I don't know. It takes self reflection, right? I'm all about self reflection. It is okay to ask, do I unintentionally give off a vibe that says I don't need support? Do I leave space for others to know the real me, flaws and all? Where can I be vocal or more vocal about who I really am without defending or over explaining. We ask ourselves, who actually sees me versus who only wants to compete with me? We ask ourselves, what boundaries do I need to keep showing up as myself without dimming my light? Where am I carrying the weight of someone else's discomfort as my identity? Because, not gonna lie, sometimes that gets internalized, right? Other people's thoughts about us, we internalize them and we start editing ourselves. We start showing up in a way that does not honor who we really are. So ask yourself, where am I carrying the weight of someone else's discomfort as my identity? Have I let someone else's opinion become my inner critic? And in thinking about this a lot, one of the scriptures, Proverbs chapter 3, verse 4 says, so you will find favor and good success in the sight of God and man. This isn't a promise that everyone will get you, but it is a reminder that living with integrity does matter. That favor with people, it is possible, but it starts with knowing you already have favor with God. And in his sight, you're not too much. You're not too anything, but what you are is you are known fully and still chosen. God still chooses you. So here's another scripture and I've used this before, but I think it's appropriate here is Galatians chapter 1, verse 10, which says, for am I now seeking the approval of man or of God? Or am I trying to please man? If I were still trying to please man, I would not be a servant of Christ. And that one hits because trying to keep everybody else comfortable, unthreatened, and happy, that's not my job. Living with integrity and showing up with love as my true self, that's my lane. So, why are we talking about this today here? This isn't just about hurt feelings. It's about the relational impact of being misjudged or treated like a threat. Because, that feeling when people stop seeing you as a person and start seeing you as a target can be isolating. And the emotional undercurrent is absolutely about relationships because constantly being misread or rivaled or resented, it eats away at the desire to connect. When people project their insecurities onto you or reduce your effort to showing off, it creates a toxic dynamic. Instead of building connection, they're building competition. That wears you down because it feels like everybody is waiting for you to trip and not cheering when you rise. But here's the thing, relationships are work, not just in the let's fix it sense, but in the way that they require intentionality and mutual respect and emotional maturity. It takes work to check your own insecurities before they bleed onto others. It takes work to celebrate someone else's strengths without shrinking our own. It takes work to offer feedback without character assassination because I'm telling you, that's what it feels like. And it definitely takes work to choose connection over competition. The truth is that being in a healthy relationship with someone takes self awareness. So, yeah, if you're wondering, well, what does that have to do with relationships? I just told you it has a lot to do with relationships. Sometimes the work of relationships is learning how not to sabotage them with jealousy or projection or unfair expectations. And sometimes the work is not quitting on yourself just because others don't know how to handle you or just because others don't know how to handle your shine. Plain and simple. If this episode stirred something in you, you're not alone. Being misunderstood is hard, but you don't have to twist yourself into someone else's comfort zone to be accepted. You're not perfect, but you are intentional, you're thoughtful, and worthy of being known for who you really are. So if you've ever been told you're too much because you try hard to do things well, that your need to do your best means that you're trying to be perfect, that your drive to grow means you're arrogant, that you're obsessed with always being the best, or watch people root against you just for being yourself, I want you to know this. Striving to do your best is not perfectionism. Being talented is not arrogance. Excelling does not mean you're competing with anyone but yesterday's version of yourself. You most likely are not too much. You are not a villain. You are not wrong for caring, for trying, or for shining. This is raw relationships at work because they are, but you are worth it. Thanks for listening.